On today's episode of Path Monk Presents, I've got a very special guest with me joining today. Please welcome Matt, who is the head of growth and operations for Scleraworx. So for all of you who don't know, this company is really unique in my opinion. So basically how this works is that their specialists are experts in consulting, migrations, managed service, and software development, DevOps, and quality assurance, and so much more. But I won't be the one to tell you all about it. Matt will be the one here. So Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to be on our show. We're super excited to learn more about you, your growth story, and overall what you guys are doing at Scleraworx overall.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Mariah. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, definitely. So for all of our listeners out there, tell us, what does your company do overall? Who are your clients? And ultimately, what are the problems that you solve for your clients as well?
Yeah, good question or a cluster of questions there. I would say, one of the things we really pride ourselves on is the concept of like digital transformation, because there are so many companies out there that have so many softwares that they use and they're not interacting with each other. They're not configured correctly. They're not maintained appropriately. And I've lived that for a long time. And actually, like, funny story, I was a Scleraworx customer for about 4 years when I was working at HubSpot. And so now being on the Scleraworx side, I think, first of all, I understand why the company is called Scleraworx, because the sclera is the white part of your eye that supports everything else that provides your vision. And that's kind of what Scleraworx wants to do. At risk of sounding like corny by saying that, like, we want to help people achieve their vision of how they want their business to run. And most of our solutions are like generally SaaS based. It will run from, software procurement, license management, implementation, configuration, support, maintenance. All of that really kind of comes into play in terms of some of our bigger clients. And some of them even evolve into really kind of cost-effective staff augmentation solutions that we can provide. There were folks who worked with us when I was at HubSpot who almost felt like part of the team. They were just such important players in terms of managing our Jira solutions, helping us with a lot of our Confluence documentation and things like that. So it really is a wide range of services. And one thing I think that is really like interesting and differentiates it a little bit is like each phase of the Scleraworx customer journey seems to complement the one before it, where someone will reach out to us and say, hey, we want to get set up with a stronger Atlassian solution, or we need to migrate to Atlassian Cloud, let's say. And all of a sudden we will, pull all the levers to make that happen. But once it's in place, we're like, hey, here are the changes we made. We can really onboard your whole team on how to do this. We can provide you maintenance support, and we can give you a resource, a monthly resource or a 6-month contract, whatever we need to do to help actually execute and make changes and maintain that solution for you if you don't have the people on site. And so, that's kind of the bread and butter of the company, I would say. And in terms of the types of clients we have, like, it really runs the gamut. I mean, we have some really big time tech companies similar to HubSpot, like I mentioned. We also have some municipal areas like across the US who have just minor software needs that they require. We have healthcare companies, and we have a lot of leads in the pipeline now for new verticals. So there really isn't, one hotspot for us. And I think that's a really nice advantage because it's 2023. Obviously, every business relies on some sort of software to run their business. And we have a really wide array of resources who can help provide that.
Yeah, definitely, especially when I go to the website. And also another thing too, that I was noticing, how you were mentioning that you used to be a HubSpot customer, and then now you work for the company. So does Scleraworx have a lot of partnerships as well? It seems like they do. Like, it's very partnership driven. So can you elaborate on that for our audience?
Yeah, that's a great question. And yeah, I mean, software partnerships are really one of the main ways that we actually do generate leads. We're a partner with, and I have a list here. I actually need to look at it. There are so many. We have Atlassian, Google, Microsoft, Asana, HubSpot, One Identity, Browser Stack, TestRail, a number of different vendors within the Atlassian marketplace. And you know how that system works. Like, those companies don't always staff up very heavily on direct support teams. And so they rely on partner groups like ourselves. And a lot of our leads come in that way. And a lot of them actually come in through referrals as well. We really pride ourselves actually on the customer experience that we provide the teams that we work with. And we just ran that was like my first project working with the team. I'm relatively new at Scleraworx, was submitting a NPS survey to all of our customers. And the NPS numbers were massive. And we did really well this time around. And I think it's a good indicator that, even as the company grows and we have, new challenges, new software that we need to dip our toes into, we're able to maintain that sort of standard of excellence for the way that our team performs and partners with our clients. And the partnerships are a huge, huge part of what makes Scleraworx tick.
Yeah, definitely. And it's one of the things that I had noticed as well when I was going through the website. Like that was one of the things that I had seen. You don't really see that a lot with companies nowadays. So I think it's great what you guys are doing.
Yeah, the wide range too is what really impressed me. When I was working with the Scleraworx team while I was working at HubSpot, a lot of the questions I would have would be like, hey, so we're looking at dabbling in Asana, or we need to clarify exactly how we integrate, Google Workspace with some of our other avenues of work here. And some of the expertise that we already had working with our group in a contract capacity, the staff augmentation solution that I was mentioning, we're able to help with that, either directly or through other folks kind of behind the scenes or in the forward, depending on what you need at Scleraworx. So it's a really cool kind of model, and it's really been a great way for us to generate some leads through some of these big tech giants that we really, are well-versed in supporting.
That's awesome. So now that we've talked about your clients and how you guys ultimately obtain your clients, now I want to talk about the website. So in your opinion, what would you say are the major strengths of your company's website, and why are there opportunities for room for improvement as well?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the website, I want to start with probably the opportunities, because we are sort of in the midst of a redesign, which is funny timing to be on a PathMonk podcast. I know with all the services that you all offer. But to me, I think that one of the bigger opportunities is to really show the breadth of services that we do offer, because I just use, I think of the example of trying to explain to my parents or to my grandmother or something, what it is that I do working for Scleraworx. It can be pretty muddy when you dig into the world of software, and it can even be pretty muddy when we're working with certain clients, because our clients run the gamut from someone who's a very tech savvy CTO who knows exactly what they want and what they need, and they almost help us write their scopes because they can be so specific and prescriptive. But then we have other folks who, might not really know the technical ins and outs of what they need. And so they'll say, hey, our Atlassian isn't working the way that we want, or we want to implement Asana to help us run our teams. And so on the website, we need to really get a little more concise and a little cleaner with our copy and our messaging around what exactly it is that Scleraworx does and the range and breadth of the services that we provide, including kind of highlighting those software partners that I just mentioned, because I think that is a huge piece of how we operate. But in terms of the strength, I would say one of the things when I did a recent assessment of the website is I think our CTAs are all pretty straightforward and drive you to a core conversion piece of what we need, or drive you to the core information around what it is we provide. There's not, while I mentioned we need to make our content a little more concise, there's not a lot of fluff when it comes to the places where you convert or where you click or where you find a form. And I think that's valuable because people really want to find what they need when they come to our site, especially if they arrive at it via, a software partner website like Atlassian, like HubSpot, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. And especially to how you were talking about the call to action on the website, that I do agree with. For example, when I was browsing and when I was coming across one of the solutions, which was the ITSM solution, the next gen IT service management, and then automatically it directs me, okay, governance and ITSM processes, where I'm okay, I found what I'm looking for. And then it breaks it into snackable content to where I'm able to see what I need, but without having so much overwhelming to where I don't feel I don't feel lost either. It's very clear overall. So
and on our Q3, Q4 roadmap this year, even we also have some ideas for kind of enhancing our marketing footprint as well, generating more content along those lines, whether it's very specific to something like deadlines for Atlassian migrations, which is going to be a big thing for Scleraworx in the very near future, or if it's something more high level around how to kind of take that, kind of I mentioned, that integrated step of implementing the software to maintaining the software to having someone to help you support the software over time at a reasonable cost, because that is one of Scleraworx's big advantages as well, is the cost at which we can provide these services for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've talked about the company website, the next thing I want to discuss is you and how you are as a leader. So tell us, with being the head of growth and operations, I know you've only been there for 2 months, but give us an insight as to how a day looks like for you. Who do you work with? Who do you report to? And ultimately what you do overall?
Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of prospecting involved at the moment. Like I mentioned, like I think as the company grows, we want to make sure that we're able to quickly and effectively respond to a lot of the leads that come through these software vendors and partners that we have. And so a lot of that is follow up and just conducting conversations, interviews, and general growth conversations with folks who are interested in just hearing more about Scleraworx's services. And then I'll partner with the rest of the folks on our team to try to understand, okay, do we have the resources in-house to help with this specialized need that a team may have? And then on top of that, that's sort of the growth side of it. And then the operations side is really just setting up a lot of like SOPs, best practices, systems, and structure for how our team works. That was my background at HubSpot. I was the head of creative project management there for about 7 or 8 years. And so I'm really like maniacal about, ticketing systems to make sure that everyone knows what priorities are and who's working on what, taxonomies and DAM utilization for everything that we are working on as a team. And I think one of the big challenges that we've seen is, with Scleraworx being a relatively small, even with all of our different locations, we do have 4 offices in the US. There's one in India, and there's a couple upcoming in the UK and Canada, most likely in Q4 this year. But it's still a relatively small, relatively newer organization. And so there's a lot of just green space where we can say we want to prioritize branding. We want to prioritize internal team operations. We want to prioritize our marketing set in terms of how we communicate the different pieces of the business that we want to focus on. And so there's like so many, it's basically a big elephant that we want to eat, but we need to make sure we're doing it a bite at a time. And so my focus right now is where are our present leads that we can really work on? And then also operationally, how can we internally become a little cleaner and clearer in terms of how we communicate so that we know who's handling this lead, who's handling the execution of this SOW delivery, or handling the finalization of whatever this current contract might be with a new customer. So there's a lot to sort, but the company has still done an excellent job, even having been, like in my case, on the customer side for a while. It's amazing how efficient and effective the team can be. And I'm really excited to kind of take that to the next level.
Yeah, that is exciting, especially too, you're elaborating like on the growth that's coming as well. And I think it's really smart how, as you were mentioning, where internally you guys are like taking the time to with partnering on how to scale up the like correctly. And what I mean by that is we're finding the right team, players that will easily mesh into the overall vision for the business to where the scale up will be able to go at a quicker rate, and it'll be very seamless for the goals that you guys wanted to complete in Q4 and for Q1 of next year as well.
Yeah, I mean, when I was at HubSpot, even I grew my team from like I was the one person on the team, and when I left, there were 15, wow. And there is so much that you have to do in terms of best practices, enablement of those team members, but also realizing that, you're going to start with maybe systems and operations here. Let's say you can see my hand. I know it's a podcast, not great to do visuals, but I know it's recorded as well. Yes. And you want to get like up to here to the very top. Let's say you're at a 1, you want to get to a 10. It is so tempting to try to do everything to get to that 10. But I think the little steps that we're taking at this phase of the business will hopefully get us to a 2 and then a 3 and then a 4. And we can start to really tack people onto a system that is very sustainable instead of fragile and Frankenstein and pockmarked and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. You summed it up perfectly. So now we're getting close to the end of our interview, and I'm going to send you some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I think so. I hope so.
You got this.
Love the energy. All right, let's do it.
All right, awesome. So if there were no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing that you would want to have fixed in your role today?
No boundaries in technology.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Look, it's been amazing. I've even read some articles and seen tweets about amazing ways that, AI has been used to mine from massive, almost unfathomably large lists and kind of like generate really targeted communications to folks who may be on those lists. And there are certainly ways to do that. But I think as I'm in my role and looking at where I feel like Scleraworx's sweet spot may be, I would love to have an opportunity to, just have a list of 5,000 companies that I know have like maybe an internal creative group or have, an understaffed tech team, to be able to know that and then target the person who is in charge, have that targeted messaging, get it out to them. I know there are ways to do that, but that's sort of my white whale for the end of this year, to really find a way to convert a high level register or list into something that becomes highly actionable with individuals with whom I can start conversations, because I really do believe in the scalability and accessibility of all of Scleraworx's services.
Yeah, definitely. And I like how adding on to that too, we're adding that human element as well, makes a huge difference to where like
for sure
it can be able to be really like, as you're saying, conversational, but then being able to build that relationship with the potential client to where it's like, it makes it easier throughout the process as well.
Yeah. I mean, we went through, we talked about how we're trying to revamp a lot of the content and copy on the Scleraworx website. Like we could just toss that into Jasper or something and bang out something incredibly quick and feel confident with it. But I wouldn't feel confident with that. We need that personal element, not just in our website copy, but also in our outreach to potential customers, of which I hope there are many that will listen even to this podcast.
Yeah, no, definitely they will. So now, what is one piece of advice that you would give yourself if you could go back and restart your career? Is there anything that you would do differently?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not 100% sure I'd do it differently, but I would like pursue something like this. And I would say to like being more of a generalist is really valuable, especially early on. Like my career in marketing, advertising, creative operations, all that stuff really started at large ad agencies. And at those ad agencies, I had a very clear remit, very specific element of the team that I was responsible for. And certainly I gained familiarity through osmosis from a lot of the other teams that we'd work with. But now, particularly, like I mentioned, Scleraworx, relatively small group at the moment, like, I'm diving into all sorts of things. I don't know if growth and operations typically go hand in hand as someone's title and someone's role, but it's like, if there's a problem, go solve it. There's not always going to be a massive team of strategists or a massive team of developers or a massive team of designers to help you with everything. A lot of times you kind of have to run in and do it yourself. And I think by doing that, you're able to piece together just a lot more of how the business works, what's important to the business, and where you fit in it. So generalism, if that's the word, is probably, I think, one of the more valuable things that especially someone more starting in their career could really, really benefit from. And I'm benefiting from it right now,
Yeah, definitely. No. And I love the advice too. And, being a generalist, I think was what takes people far, where, it's a lot more valuable than a lot of people think, honestly. So yeah, definitely. So now we're at the end of our interview today. And I want to thank you so much. But I want to thank you again so much for taking the time. And it's been an honor to like learn more about you and your growth story and ultimately what you guys are doing at Scleraworx as well. So for our audience out there, if they were to forget about everything we've talked about in this interview, what is the one thing that you want them to really remember about your company overall?
Our company overall is that if you have a vision or something that is blocking you from that vision and you just need help configuring, setting it up, or cutting through some of that noise and building something to help you get to where you want to go, Scleraworx, very good chances are that we have a way that we can help you with that. And so just introduce yourself, have a conversation with us. And if we don't have a software specialist in the piece that you need, there's a chance we could maybe find one and start working with you on it. But that'd probably be my one takeaway there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Mariah. This was great. I really appreciate you having me. This was fun.
Oh yeah, I'm glad. No, it was fun for me as well. And I know our audience really appreciate it. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
Me too. So for all of our listeners out there, check us out next week on Pathmark Presents.